there was that whole time at the start of lockdown where people were really like anti-lockdown, and I was like, no, I believe in this. I think it works. You know, we need to do it. And so I just took a phrase that I'd seen people use and my typewriter that I had, and I was just like, okay, right, let's do a print of this, because it's what I have seen, like it's what I've got around me, and it seemed like something that worked.
I asked, I suppose, because where Imogen was just saying, you know, she's also got that interest in printmaking and has a shared experience of finding printmaking really difficult at home, is that during this time those sort of social connections, even though not in person, have become so important, and sharing that experience. I've seen on Instagram there are artists doing things like asking people to send them the view of their window, and they've produced hundreds of paintings of views from people's windows. And whether that's something that you're interested in, I know you said you're collecting images from Instagram, but whether you have contact with the people that you're sourcing those images from, and whether there's much dialogue between you and other people.
Well, with the specifically this one, this is my friend's mum's house, and it's the most beautiful house I've ever seen. Like, it looks out onto the hills, and it is sort of, in my mind, a goal. I'll never have it. It's but it's so pretty, and I think it is almost so I do talk to her about this, and I'm like, is this okay, and what would you like me to include and stuff like that. But it's less of a I would say it's less of a dialogue and more of what I see as being like, oh, I like this. I don't know.
Yeah, so for you they're quite aspirational images.
Probably, which is quite bad, I think.
Well, it's interesting because there's something with your work. When you started showing the first few, I thought, oh, okay, this is quite a critique on people buying these sort of badges of, hipsterism, or, being part of that group of people that say, this is my house, look at it. And now to hear that actually some of these images are really something that you see as being a beautiful place to live and something to really aspire to have one day. They're quite different perspectives.
Yeah. I think that's what kind of annoys me, because I don't want to be that person. But I think it's like, as in, I don't want to want this. And I don't want to, but I also do. And I sort of, I don't really know where I am with it. It's sort of, I don't know.
Well, I, of course, started to think after yesterday's sessions that it was my responsibility to come up with a theme for today. And I did find myself thinking that maybe irony was irony, or its close associate, humour. But the phrase I ended up with was indignant double bluff, which I thought was a double bluff in itself, really, and ducking the issue in the way that we all do. But I think that the ambiguity that you've just, or ambivalence even, that you've just sort of admitted to, or been sort of cornered into, is entirely legitimate, and it's the reason that you don't just write down a statement but make work, really, is in order to sustain that ambivalence. Does anybody have anything else to add? I thought Lucy said something interesting about the Zoom calls. It's a slightly different idea from getting views out of people's windows. It's the idea that you can actually spy on all our homes by just via these media. Do you do that?
It's a great idea, but from experience, it's been mainly people sit behind a blank wall.
Yeah.
And they don't show anything off. So it seems to be that's the theme, is you don't actually see much. Because that was
Go on.
That was an idea at one point, but then it seemed like no one actually had anything behind them relevant.
I have to take part in a lot of university meetings in which you see a hell of a lot of books.
It's the bookshelf, isn't
Yeah.
it? That's become the thing.
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent. Thank you, Beth. Thank you, Imogen. Would you like to unshare now? That's it. Thank you. And Oliver.
Hi.
Would you like to go now?
Yeah. I just try to find out how can I share the screen.
It should be a green button in the middle of the row at the bottom, or near the middle of the row.
Right.
Are you on a laptop?
No, I'm on a phone. That's why
it's subtly different on a phone. Is anybody on a phone that can advise Oliver on where he can find the screen share button?
Is Ian still?
Yeah, Oliver, you might find it's a green one that sort of says share content in the middle. So there's you kind of look, there's a mute, and then the start video, and then there's share content, and that'll be the one which will kind of then take you to whatever you want to share.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got it.
I think so. Just a second. Where am I? Wow. I lost the screen completely.
Well, we can still hear you.
Yeah, I'm in it. I don't know how to get back. I think I'm in the settings, meetings. Sorry.
Okay, I'm just wondering whether we could do a workaround, whether somebody could access your, it was your PDF you were going to use, you were telling me earlier. Has he gone?
As in potentially someone else shares their screen
Yes.
of Oliver's work.
Yes. But he's disappeared. So we're going to have to wait. We're going to have to move on without him for now. Beth, would you like to come back and talk about Harry's work?
Yeah, sure.
Would that be? I mean, Oliver, how are you doing? You've changed location. Sorry, Beth. Sorry.
It's all right.
No, I'm still here. It just I had to log out, but I don't have a share con. Oh, I have it. Cool, found it.
Here we go.
All right. I'm not sure. Am I still online?
Yes, you're still with us, but we can't see your screen yet.
All right, maybe
Here
now.
it comes.
Yay. All right, I'm not very good at handling this.
Oliver, I have your presentation up if you want me to do it. I have it on it as a PDF.
Yeah, I would be very grateful for that because it's just not working out the way I want it to work out.
You'll have to direct me onto which page to get onto though. Is that?
Yeah,
Can you do that?
otherwise I have a laptop and I can share, so I can directly show that. But yeah, what I wanted to talk about is my digital drawings mostly.
Okay. Do you want me to share my screen and we'll do it that way?
Yes, please. I'm just checking where it is. Which page?
Drawings are Oliver?
Yeah, these. So I was mostly working digitally during the lockdown, and I started doing this as a practice before, mostly when I was traveling, I was on a bus or something, when I don't have any access to other materials to work with, but I always have my phone with me, so with this I can always sketch something quickly, and it became a very good instrument to channel my feelings as well during the lockdown, and especially because there are these limitations that's coming with lockdown, that all the clothes are shopping, so you have less access to paints and other materials that you would otherwise work with. You also don't have a studio to work in, and yeah, so it became kind of an easy way to make art. I also really enjoyed the fact that it's completely different to painting in that matter, that you don't paint with pigments, but you paint with light itself. In a way, like I was drawing this with my fingers on my screen, and it's a bit like, how light is coming through the screen. So that's an interesting contrast. And yeah, I just wanted to talk about this because I think it's interesting how sort of the entire art world has been reduced to the digital world during the pandemic. And yeah. These are like, so these are mostly about mythological stuff, and or just feelings, or animals, but I don't know, it's sort of feels a bit, I don't know, like primal to me in a way, like, you know, it's like, I don't know, I just have this theme in my work that's going on, that's, you know, like this, creating this fake historical archaeological narrative, and then this kind of goes back to these motives, and then bringing it back in a way.
Are there any that you'd specifically like me to shift to, Oliver?
Yeah, I want to go on to the next page, which I think is a pyramid. And yeah, this so my degree project was supposed to be this pyramid that I wanted to build from crisp package materials, and I made a small scale, and then I wanted to make this digitally when the pandemic started, and I started building it, but then it became completely different, and then so I was using those because I'm making these digital drawings anyway. I was thinking it's something that has been created digitally, so so I should use these digital things in a digital setting. And so I was using my drawings as like textures and stuff like that. And yeah, and I can and I have some video footage from the actual thing if anyone wants to see it, or I don't know.
Yeah, Oliver, is there a link or something?
No, not a link. I can share it because I have it in front of me on my laptop and I can show that if that's okay, but not a link yet.
Okay, so shall I stop sharing my screen then, or you?
Yeah.
Yep.
Just for a sec, and then I can show it from my screen.
Thanks, Lucy.
This is like, yeah. So this is my pyramid, but it's a bit bigger than, so it's a lot bigger than what the actual thing's supposed to be. Ooh. And then, yeah. Oh, sorry, it's difficult to. I'm using a very old engine for this, so it can run on my laptop as well, because I have some technical problems. And And that's it so far. I haven't made, so I started to make this kind of as like so people can kill time during the pandemic, but then I haven't made any more progress on it because I was sorting out moving, and I was also doing some MA interview applications, no, some MA interviews, and yeah, I didn't really have that much time, but
Oliver, you haven't shown us any of your cardboard paintings.
Cardboard paintings, yeah, because I haven't shared much of those because I thought that I'm doing those for such a long time now that it's like.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So I just wanted to show something different because usually that's the sort of thing I'm working on, and this is something new to me. So it's a bit exciting as well. And yeah, I just feel like I kind of want to digitalize some aspects of my work because that, you know, like that takes a big amount of, I don't know, people's attention goes towards digital stuff, and most of my stuff are very personal, but I also very interested in social engagement. And I think if I want to engage with people, and if I want to send a message, then I should use, or I should get used to using more platforms that are more mainstream. If that makes sense, I don't know.
No, that's really good, and also I was going to kind of needle you to cover the kind of overarching theme of your practice, and you kind of just did that. But because it was a strategy of yours to use old software and open source software as well.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's practically, it's just like the extension of my normal practice, because even the images I'm painting are like appropriated images from the internet. So in a way, it's like, you know, it's just using what I have.
Oliver, can I ask you something about the digital sketches that you showed, that Lucy showed? Do you have a strategy for kind of engaging with the task when you make one of those images? Because my experience of that kind of interface is of being kind of overwhelmed by its provisionality, that because I know everything can be changed and undone and that you can just sort of mess about, somehow that's all I ever do is just mess about. How do you, I mean, because those images, they really do look like your paintings, you know, they're recognizably related to them. So I'm just wondering how you kind of decide to start and how you know when you've finished.
I have some basic principles that I'm using in terms of making digital paintings. These are the kind of the same principles that I apply to my normal paintings, that I always put on. I mean, I usually I prefer to start working on a dark surface rather than on a light one. And also that I like, so I kind of paint the same way if I would paint on cardboard. It just, I'm not using a brush, but my fingers and the screen. So in that sense, it's very recognizable. But then I also have more freedom with the colors and with the shapes. So it's funny because I have some freedom with it, but then I also have some limitations with using my fingers. So like some of the, I don't know, so most of these drawings look more rough than my paintings, and they can look rough too, but like I'm kind of limited with the shapes and by the size of my finger of what can I do. But on the other hand, I have unlimited colors and I can go back anytime and redo the things I didn't want it to do, or I put it on a mistake. But then I generally try to not to go back and edit those things out, because I like to keep these inconsistencies and accidents in the.
And the dark start, the dark ground that you prefer,
Yes.
is that to do with your idea that you're painting with light, or is it that that's what you're used to with like the cardboard paintings and so forth?
That, I mean, it's kind of both, because I don't know, it kind of feels like when you paint on a dark surface that the light is coming through the darkness. But then I started doing it first because that's how I did with the cardboards as well. But on the other hand, I kind of have the same idea behind the cardboard as well. So I mean, when I first started painting on the cardboard, and when I first painted it black, and when I start applying to the different parts of the face, that feels a bit like how when you're in a dark room or something and then light reflects from your skin. So it's like, it's still kind of just how light comes through the darkness.
Okay, thank you. Imogen, do you have anything to add at this point?
I just wanted to, one of the questions in the chat, which I think is quite important, is why a pyramid?
Why a pyramid? I mean, I have this narrative about the fake historical things, and I'm basically appropriating pop culture and TV show imagery, and then I put it in this fake historical context. So I was thinking a pyramid can be the perfect metaphor for this, because you know it has like all this old stuff in it. If you go to Egypt and visit these pyramids, and then also it's a very practical shape. I first started thinking about this when I wanted to create a capsule, or you know, like a memorial or something that I can use as a time capsule to put my stuff in it as artifacts. And I was thinking the easiest thing to build is a pyramid. It holds itself. It's like, I don't know, I don't have to build a roof. I just have to build 4 sides, like 4 walls, and then it will kind of hold itself. And I was thinking so I choose it for practical reasons, but then also for symbolical reasons.
Because in traditional culture, in Egyptian culture, sorry, they are tombs. It's where the dead. It's where the dead go. Because I think that's really interesting, in terms of your mythological, but also using pop culture. It's kind of.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like in my narrative, we're also dead. So this is technically our tomb in a way.
So what are you going to do with this narrative? Because it sounds like it needs to be recorded in like a book or a novel or something. It seems like there's a mythology that could span generations in old dingy libraries, and we could be finding it out for ages. I feel like this could be a project that could span your entire life.
Yeah.
It really reminds me, do you mind if I cut in? It really reminds me of, like the Mighty Boosh and Noel Fielding's painting style and those kind of characters. And you just saying about it building up this kind of mythology, it's almost like you're creating this world where you're kind of building the landscape and the pyramid digitally, but then you're also creating these characters that have got that really similar kind of frenetic energy because of your digital painting style that's, I think, just like Noel Fielding's style, which absolutely builds in that kind of humor, and like you can almost hear them speaking because of the way their like particular facial features are made. And yeah, I wonder if that might be a useful reference if are you already a fan or not?
No, I didn't know him, but I look him up. How do you
start at series 1, episode 1, The Mighty Boosh, and get lost in it for a weekend?
How do you pronounce it? How do you spell it? Sorry.
The Mighty Boosh. Mighty like strong and mighty, and boosh.
Yeah.
Oh, I could type it in. I'll type it in the chat. Can you see the chat?
No, never.
Oh, okay, I won't type it.
Brilliant.
Boosh is just as it sounds, BOOSH.
All right, I just wasn't sure if you write it with a U or with a 2 O.
No, double O.
Brilliant.
Thank you. Yeah, I look it up.
Well done, Oliver. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Beth, are you still with us?
Hello.
Hello. Would you like to show just a little of Harry's work if you've got it?
I've got some on a
prepped?
PowerPoint. I can't say that I'm going to be very good at explaining.
No, I think that's okay. I think just a little glimpse of it would be helpful at this stage.
Okay. Let's share screen again. There we go. Yeah, people can see, right? This is his shed. I think that's sort of key to the FMP work, is the shed. And some work made on pallets, and then some drawers for his shed made out of pallets.
Oh.
And then a shed made out of pallets, but tiny. And then a reproduction of his shed in the spaces that he would like it to be, which I think is the idea of FMP would be. He would create a shed and have a replica of all of his work in his shed. So, yeah.
I think in terms of the shed, I did read your proposal, and the three of you, Mariam, yourself, and Harry, started up the shed, and it sounds absolutely amazing. Could you talk a little bit about that? Because I feel like that has some relation to this.
So we had a bit of we all were in lockdown together up until very recently. So we all were making art in the same house. And I basically banished Harry and Mariam to the shed because it was too messy for me. So they got this shed and they were making work in the shed, and we had sort of like workshops we put on. So I did like a printing workshop, and Maz did like screenplay writing workshop and stuff like that. So we were able to work as an almost bit of a collective together in that. So it's very like a big part of it was the fact that we were all working together almost within our separate practices. So yeah,
that's really interesting. I think shed culture is going to become a big thing, because that's where I've had to retreat to, and our shed is awful, so I'm having to redo it all. But I think that's just really inspiring, and and Harry seems to have really taken this on board in terms of, I mean, do you think this was inspired by lockdown, or did the shed happen? Was that an idea before?
I think it was mainly inspired by lockdown. I think he really likes a shed. He's got a bit of old man in him where he just wants a shed of all of his stuff. And I think that was brought on more by lockdown, in the sense that it's his own space and somewhere that he can get really messy and it be like locked to everyone else, but also a really working space. And I think that, yeah, lockdown brought it on, but I think he'll now take that and use that for years to come, you know, like it's nice. I like the idea of a shed.
So what about yourself and Marianne? Where have you guys been working? How have you, I can imagine as a printmaker, you've got a desk, but not much else at the moment.
I used the kitchen surfaces, which is probably not that safe. So I put newsprint down and used that. And then Maz worked in the shed with Harry for most of it, because they do a lot of collaborative work. So it worked a lot better for that. And it was able to be quite messy in there and I not get too, you know, annoyed. So, yeah, that was...
Did Marianne, did you want to talk about your collaboration with Harry? Or are we saving that for later?
Oh, I don't know. Potentially John could suggest. I don't mind either way.
You go ahead. Go ahead. I think this is the moment.
Oh, yeah.
And the other thing I was going to mention was sweet potatoes.
Oh yeah. Beth, you want to quickly mention about do you want to explain about the sweet potatoes?
I did a workshop trying to print make, and I made them carve into sweet potatoes because we had too many of them. We'd gone extreme with buying them. And I think for that moment, we all felt like we were 5 again. And did this really bad print with these sweet potatoes.
What were you saying? It was excellent, mate.
Where is it now? We don't know.
I thought it was in the shed.
Is it in the shed? Okay, yeah. It's in the shed. But yeah, so we did this sort of collaborative print, which was only put in as a workshop, not as a final piece, because it was shocking. But yeah, so that was one of the things that we did in the shed.
But to pick up on, like George just commented in the chat that he thought it was in the sculpture studio. Like obviously, given the resources, I think for FMP, it was very much on the cards, not like shed based, but like a kind of immersive, like constructed room. Like, you know how Oliver was talking about his pyramid and it being this kind of like projection of his work, and it like manifested very, I don't know, installation-y, you know. I forgot what I was saying because I just suddenly realised how many people there are probably on this, sorry. What was it about? Oh yeah, shit.
Collaboration,
that was it. Yeah, we formed a collaborative duo called Daddy and the Boy, and we made work that was to do with, I guess, the intersection of our respective practices. We'd collaborated like quite a bit in the past as well, and I think somewhere like expanded field of paint / drawing / installation.
If you want, I'm reading them now myself, and you should sort of like just start reading them. It's pretty straightforward.
Someone else.
Is there, Beth, did you go through all of Harry's slides, just out of curiosity?
I just did, essentially John sent me an email before this being like, can you put together some bits? And these are the bits that I sort of thought were the most relevant for FMP. There was quite a lot to look through, so I did it very quickly. I apologise. But It was like 5 minutes before. Oh, I need to do this.
Sorry to interrupt you, Beth. Can we just make sure everyone is on mute if they're not speaking?
I think that might be Mariam's environment that we're hearing.
Very sorry, I do have a bit of background noise. Guys, can you keep it down, please? Sorry.
Okay, I'm just swapping computers here, Mariam. Can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
I'm just going to swap computers so I can show this video.
Is the video ready?
Well, who knows? It's as ready as it's going to be.
Okay, cool.
Beth, level of 1 to 7, how excited are you right now?
It's got to be a 7 with a lot of
No,
anticipation.
that's not good.
Uh-oh. What, the 7 or the rendering?
No, the being excited isn't good. I mean, we've got to be cool about this.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
yeah. Cash.
Yeah.
What was it?
dead
Ambivalent. We're so ambivalent, we couldn't care less.
Right, oh, I need the meeting ID now. Got it.
As someone that doesn't know Harry, it feels a bit like he's not real. I'm kind of I'm thinking a bit of Laura Provost's project about her granddad and how there's this whole myth built around him and his shed, and in the 1T film how she kind of goes into his shed, and then that whole story of her granddad is kind of carried on, and how he likes digging tunnels, and yeah, I don't know Harry, so Harry's shed has got some real energy to it. It's quite exciting.
Vicky, I think that's put me video on. I think that's my experience as well. That it's almost like he's self-mythologizing, that he's inventing this kind of persona as part of his practice. You know, like Kippenberger or someone, or Joseph Beuys. But also it reminds me a bit of Andrew Mania when I think about it, that shed.
Actually, very interesting that you bring this up, because there is actually a fictional Harry who features in like the subject of the rest of this discussion, who is a different entity entirely to the real Harry. But he exists as part of a fictional collective called the Group Residual, also known as Just Three Boys. So important distinction to be made. There is actually a fictional Harry. That's different Harry. Hopefully we'll come on to it later. Maybe.
It's very helpful that you've explained that, because I'm not at all sure that Harry's own explanation of it in this film is properly audible. So now people know what to look out for.
John, do you mind if I say like a line or two about what the film is?
No, I don't mind at all. Go ahead.
So by way of context, this is like a little impromptu collaboration. It was initially intended to like introduce this discussion, the like, I guess our Symposium group. And I guess provide like a kind of, you know, like Katie, you and Vicky were saying about this kind of mystification, simultaneous like mystification, demystification, what actually is real. As John said, indignant double bluff. So yeah, that's what this was intended to kind of, I guess, set that tone. So you're kind of like, how much of this? I'm not sure what to make of this, but yeah.
And none of us have seen it yet. Not one of us.
Not even yourself, John?
Not even me. No, of course not.
I'm so scared.
The grotesque plot. That's all I'm gonna say.
Right, here we go then. Are you ready, Mariam? Is that enough of an introduction? An hour and 10 minutes?
Yeah.
How's that? Nice and black?
Thanks for the lift. How's it going, mate?
Ah, very well, Bethany. How are things your end?
You know, can't really complain.
Careful with your paint rags on my upholstery, please.
Of course, John Boy. Can I call you John Boy?
I'd prefer Johnny Boy, thanks. Bethany or Beth?
Beth, not Jeff, but either would suffice.
So, fellas, while I have you here, I've been thinking about this summer and wondering about production plans for Just 3 Boys in Kimonos. I know it's Mariam's project, but any ideas as to how we can get in at the ground level?
Not to mention kimono hire, sourcing materials, props and all.
Agreed. And reassembling your man shed is going to take quite a bit of work.
Partially buried wood shed?
Different shed. Harry's man shed.
John, once you give us the all clear, we need to sort out and agree on dates for moving all the shed components to your place, to partially reassemble. This is going to be brilliant. Cornelia Parker herself would be blown away. Get it?
Not to mention Simon Starling. Not to worry, all in good time. We do still have a couple of weeks left for Harry's shed. What a sweet interim studio to have. I think I'd be jealous if it weren't for my new automobile.
True. We'll worry about the shed later.
So talk to me about the stage play then. What's the plan?
Don't ask us, it's Ibrahim's domain.
Who's Ibrahim?
The playwright, Ibi, or Ibrahim, also goes by the pseudonym of the boy. He wrote the play.
He's not on the course, is he? And just not here today, like Nathan and Jake and Oliver?
Not technically. He's the author of Just 3 Boys in Kimonos, and one member of the group Residual, a fictional art collective created by Mariam.
Ah, starting to understand.
So Ibrahim's wrote a full-length pseudo-autobiographical screenplay featuring boys who wear kimonos and some boys who don't. And from what I understand, it's something about radically dematerialised installation and complete non-sight as the antithesis of site specificity. There are others too in this fictional troupe: Adam, Jeff, Harry, Chris.
Wait, so you're not the Harry in the art collective?
Nope, but obviously the muse behind this character, nor Beth, Jeff.
Though he's obviously the best character, and I wonder why. John, if you don't mind me asking, how much longer are we going to be? I can't wait to get out my new press and all my inks. I love printmaking.
Haha, Beth, you're so earnest. Printmaking really is a high art form, to be fair, and a coveted technical skill. Lithography, silkscreen, lino, hard ground etching, sugar lift, aquatint, reduction, woodcut. This bad rep thing it's got going on is outrageous.
Besmirching our fine name. Madness, really.
What bad rep?
Printer's dead and all that.
What? That nonsense is still going on? But I've deployed my best people, Andy and Peter, on the front lines, day in, day out, in the workshop and adjacent office and studios, working tirelessly to re-inspire and reinvigorate a new generation of printmakers.
Rebrand, essentially.
What?
Let's play a game. Who's up for a round of print-themed word association?
I'm down.
This sounds fun. Why not?
I'll go first. Overalls.
Gloves?
Inky fingers.
Roller.
Rubber?
Eraser.
That's not print-themed, is it, Beth?
Actually, there are a number of fine printmakers who use erasers in printmaking.
I guess we could just do general art themed, if that makes it easier.
I'm fine. I like a challenge. And any time I'm faced with a tough decision like this, I think to myself, what would William Kentridge do? And more often than not, it solves any problem I have with making a decision.
Wow, Harry. That's fascinating. I do exactly the same thing.
What? No way.
Well, almost. I usually ask myself, what would Ian do? And use that as a guiding compass.
Mind you, Ian is quite daring, so I don't follow him religiously. It's more a balance of intuition and speculation as to how Ian would react.
Like a balance between ambition
and pragmatism.
GG, folks.
GG.
John, do you mind me asking you something? Seeing as we're on the topic of printmaking.
Sweet segue, dude.
Ask away.
At the last symposium, and there was that dude, Ian, who poked Lily's cave thing and knew a lot about lithography.
Yep.
Well, I found it challenging because, in a way, the whole message or concept behind my piece was a bit esoteric. The interplay between form and content was so integral to the work and was totally lost on most people. Like, with the history of printmaking and the use of lithography as a tool of mass poster reproduction for information dissemination. If one doesn't overtly explain that, there's a sense of non-engagement with the content of the work itself.
What do you mean? I vaguely recall you had a lithography plate, right?
The wobbly board?
Yes, that's right. It was propped on a radiator, far end of the room.
Ah, yes. And you look at our need to use interiors as extensions of identity. Ironically, how, in trying to express our individualism, we fall subject to very stereotypical, cliched, almost categorical decision-making.
Yes, exactly.
But it's ironic.
Exactly. Thanks, Haz. And I guess what I wanted to ask about was this sense of explicit communication, and at a stretch, what even is the point of a symposium? Not in a rude way, but genuinely, what role does it serve? Is it merely gratuitous self-adulation? Is it to probe a deeper reading? It's not like there's ever time for that anyways.
It's all about networking, Beth. Who you meet and who you know.
Yes, it's important to network, but a symposium should be held in higher regard for a more noble purpose. Beth, we take risks and dare to discuss that which we typically avoid, hide from even. What's wrong with your work, or mine, or Harry's? Now that would make an interesting discussion.
Can we talk about my practice now? Would be good to get some insight, Johnny boy, if you don't mind.
Not at all, Harry. I guess we've got to kill the time somehow.
You're behaving quite weirdly. All good?
Oh yeah, I just get fired up when we talk about art, especially Kentridge, my guy.
He does have long toes, doesn't he?
He certainly keeps us on ours, that's for sure.
What are you talking about?
Harry has a system to gauge value, whether or not something keeps you on your toes. If they do, it's a good thing, and we associate it with long toes. Something like that.
So, I'm talking about where my work is headed. On one hand, I have a solid concept that I think I was working on and allowing me to be quite expressive and free, with my output being very much a product of the process. Not overly planned, not out, nor dead before it even started. My focus was mainly to do with animating my paintings and drawings, keeping them fluid and expressive and rich, with all this gesture and mark making.
And raw. They felt quite raw, I think, but in a good way.
I'm quite cinematic as well, like the sort of camera style and subject matter depicted. Rather observational, no? Lots of people in cafes, drinking coffee or smoking cigarettes.
Oh, I saw this. Was it at the exchange exhibition you guys put on? What's that smell?
Sorry, big lunch, my bad.
No, goofball. Our exhibition. What's that smell?
That was excellent stuff. I do have a soft spot for charcoal drawings as well.
Oh, whoops. Yeah, exactly. That kind of work. Starting out as GIFs and short videos, then that became a lot more textured, I think.
Ambition and pragmatism.
And then with the Corona situation, it all became a lot more site-specific and dictated by my affiliation with the shed in which I was working.
Almost like a residency.
Exactly like a residency.
Phew. Did any of that come out? So we should explain to people like Vicky who think that Harry doesn't exist, that not only does he exist, but his teeth exist and his face isn't covered with tattoos. That was just That was just an unfortunate effect of the green screen rush that we were in. Right, Mariam.
Hello.
Was that what you intended?
Yeah, why was I so small in the corner?
Were you small?
Well, obviously not as small as Beth, but Beth was meant to be like hanging from the rearview mirror.
I think you were about the right size. It's just that you were slumped.
Oh.
I had to slump you in order to fit everybody in.
I see.
Sorry, no time to debate that.
I did like the the lack of teeth that Harry exhibited throughout. That was brilliant.
He looked like he had some sort of grill.
I feel like even I'm now starting to question whether Harry exists. This is quite profound.
It's worrying, isn't it?
Should I share my screen?
Yes. Yes, please do.
Oh. Oh dear. Sorry, I think I have to change my system preferences.
I'd just like everybody to know that I would never use a phrase like bad rep. What bad rep?
Print is dead.
Print is dead.
You would use that, right?
Yeah. Wouldn't say that either.
Perhaps Peter would like to comment on having been deployed as one of your best men, John.
Well, I think it's the front line that is the issue for him.
It's always a pleasure to be on the front line.
Exactly.
Yeah, solidarity for the printmakers.
Is this the sharing moment? No, you see, that's not right. I don't want to be called Johnny Boy. I knew this would happen. How's it going, Mariam? You're mute.
Sorry, I lost the call for a second.
That's okay.
Is my screen sharing? Oh.
Yes, you are sharing. Are you sharing video at all? Sound, I mean.
Oh shoot! Thank you very much for reminding me. That's what in an hour's time. Yeah?
Should I click deny? Or
Okay.
I'll just move that. What am I looking for? Not this. Oh, not that. This. Oh dear. Sorry. Right. So, obviously, quite a few of you will already know my work from like crit groups and stuff, so I'll try not to be like overly repetitive, but at the same time, I guess reintroduce myself for people who aren't familiar with my work. Can you see the panel on the side? Can you see this?
Which?
Like yourself, John, Oliver, Marbell.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, no, different people, but yes, the principle's the same.
Mariam, we can't see the one on your screen. We can see the ones on our own screen.
Oh, I see. Okay, cool. I was just wondering if it was blocking like content. So at the moment, all you can see is like the slide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Great.
We've got discretion in what else we have on our screens.
I beg your pardon. Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think one way of explaining my practice would be like the expanded field of drawing, because I think the pure constant in what I do is drawing, and then I guess that is then like applied to different projects and different schemes and artworks. Oops. Oh gosh. I'm sorry, my Zoom window is really playing up. What is going on? I'm back again.
It's okay. We can see it. We can see it, Mariam. We can see your studio.
Yeah. So this is, so as mentioned in the video, this is one of the like install shots from the Exchange exhibition, What's That Smell? Which was a collaborative project for to showcase kind of the work made by students returning from exchange. So that was myself, Lily, Harry. There was Nina in graphics. There were discussions with Trish and Ellie Mason on graphics as well. But essentially, I guess my practice is quite like exhibition based, or not necessarily exhibition based, but quite like.
Mariam, your background noise is quite loud again, by the way.
Can you hear speech?
Yeah.
Let's try that.
Did you hear that?
Yeah.
I don't really know what to do.
But that's still in motion, are you? That's the easiest one to.
Sorry, 1 second.
I mean, the only thing is, have you ever come back to Antonio? Fine. No problem. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know where to go.
That's fine. There's different audience.
Am I still online? Am I still connected?
Yeah.
Still no.
Yeah.
Oh no, this. Oh no.
Morgan's suggesting that you go to the toilet or the bathroom.
Yeah.
Okay.
Always lock yourself in and no one will get you.
Oh, bless you.
Thank you.
Mariam, you should sit in a bath.
Yeah, but what if someone needs the toilet? Where's the Zoom call? I'm really lost.
We can still see your screen. You just need to maximize your presentation.
What?
So at the top it says you're still sharing, right?
Okay, gotcha. Yeah.
Cancel the leave meeting bit.
Okay. Oh dear.
Okay, now maximize your presentation. Yeah, great.
Oh gosh, thank you.
No worries.
It's very embarrassing. I'm very uncomfortable. Oh gosh. There's nowhere to sit.
Are you in the bath?
No, I'm on the floor of the toilet. There we go. Apologies for the technical difficulties there. Right, so this was from the install of the Exchange exhibition, What's That Smell? And I guess the reason I included this was to kind of show the transition from like paper-based drawings with like markers to like application on like a larger scale and being more experimental with kind of what, you know, drawing in a installation space. So this was like a collaborative drawing. Both of these walls were collaborative with Harry. Essentially, I used my little drawing books and kind of got him to do half the work for me. But yeah, with like, so this one is like spray paint. Sorry, this is actually a picture from the deinstall, hence the kind of white stuff on the front. But yeah, so starting out with like spray paint to like, I guess, put the overall basic forms and then like filling it in with like watered down acrylic, hence the drippy drips. It's like a little panorama. But yeah, it's not about the exhibition. It was more about like these works in the exhibition to kind of show that kind of drawing in a different sense. So I don't know if you can actually see, but there's like little notebooks on the table there, which is where I like started for like throughout WSA. Like I just kept doing these drawings and then was just like, why am I not actually, I don't know, realizing this a bit more? I'm not sure. These were like some more of my works from the exhibition. Where did I put? But yeah, they obviously have like a slightly different form. They're like less, you know, graphic-y, less like, they're obviously not caricatures, they're more just, I guess, mark making and you know, I really forgot what I was gonna say. But I also very like heavily revolving around the concept of us being a group of students who went away on exchange, came back, and now we're like working together. So we also generated new material like the wall drawings like collaboratively. So I guess it had more of a like dual function, and also like collaborating with people who we hadn't collaborated with before. And actually the kind of, I included this picture because the kind of the boards, like the two yellow ones on either side, they were like discarded boards from like one of the WSA like WSA like recruitment fairs. So I don't know if you can actually see, but it's just like graphic design, illustration, motion design. It has like part of the WSA branding is still kind of like showing through. So it's like, I guess it was more to explore the concept of like the art school itself. We'd all been to different institutions. We're returning to WSA. What is it that the art school is? What is it that it's meant to inspire or invigorate? You know, even in the like video, we're talking about what's the point of the symposium? Is it just like gratuitous like self-adulation? Is it, you know, networking? What is it, like actually examining these things and really like probing into it, but also just like playing and having fun and recognizing, for me subjectively, that's what I thought the point of art school was, is to explore and experiment. And if you don't do that, you've missed the whole point. That's my take on it. So it's like, rather than art school is purely the context in which you're working. I mean, you know, it was said before, but I think many of you, or many of the alumni, like many of the guests participating are alumni of WSA, so have their own like personal connections and like anecdotes, memories, you know, all that stuff. So even, for example, in the script writing for like John's casket, it was like heavily referential to like stuff within the art school. What would Ian do? Which is also a double kind of, there's a lot of texture and layer, I think, to the stuff. For example, Morgan in her presentation yesterday, what would Sisyphus do? So I don't know, it's kind of like everything slightly riffs off of everything else. And it is a bit like esoteric, like, you know, you're not going to know, for example, the long toes, that's, you know, perhaps not as accessible to everyone who might not already know what that is about. But yeah, so it's not just like art school as context, but art school as content, art school as subject matter, as the form, as medium even, you know, participatory art, you know. I did in lockdown, I was going to share it, but I'm not anymore. I did a read through of a script I wrote called Just Three Boys in Kimonos, in which Ian Dawson played the part of Jeff, which was inspired by Beth. Andy Brooke read Chris. All the characters are kind of based loosely on people I know, hence fictional Harry, not actual Harry, who was he read by? James Hewins. That was fun. But yeah, and I guess it's just this kind of very improvisational, very kind of, it doesn't, you know, to be honest, I don't really care too much for the kind of commercialization and commodification of art. I wanted like a very rich education where I really just experimented. So for example, like Lily made reference yesterday to missing, like what would she miss like from WSA, and she made reference to like the use of found objects. For example, all this carpet we sourced for use in this exhibition. As soon as it got into the studio, I bumped into Millie, who was just, you know, walking past, and she was like, "Oh, what are you doing with this carpet?" And suddenly we were just making these kind of suprematist, not supremacist. Suprematist. Is it suprematism? Kazimir Malevich, is that? Yeah, okay, Peter's nodding, yeah. So like supremacist style kind of, I don't know, compositions and drawings. I see all of this as just drawing. It was whatever, site specific, it was temporal, it wasn't permanent, but that's the energy. And then it turned into like a whole performance thing with Beth and this guy, Robert. They kind of, like unintentionally, it's just, you know, what happens? Yeah, and then again, back to this is, I think there is a very, like I've mentioned, I haven't explained very well, but, oops, oh, sorry. There is a very like heavily like discursive element to what I want the work to be. So for example, at the exhibition, like here we have Alex Morgan, Georgie, Gordon Hahn, I think there were like 2 others as well in this discussion, but it just turned into like a lot of impromptu like happenings or conversations or mini events. I don't know. I just wanted to provide a context in which that could then be facilitated. And that's a picture of Vasi, because weirdly enough, this was included in the exhibition, like very small. But when Lily was on exchange, she found a pamphlet and she sent a picture to us and was like, this girl looks like Vasi. And then I sent it to Vasi and was like, Vasi, is this you? She's like, yes. And she sent me this picture. So that's just mind blowing.
Yeah, it was a pamphlet for a course.
It was a pamphlet for what? Hello? Hello?
Say again, Lily Flo. We lost her.
Oh, it was a pamphlet for something. So now we know. But yeah, I think, I don't know. I had a hard time trying to come up with what to present, and I don't think I've done the best job, but I don't think it should be an egotistical, like, this is everything I've done. I think for me personally, I think the richness and the like texture of it comes from the stuff around it, you know? In lockdown, I tried to, I wasn't too judicious with my choice of image selection, but in lockdown, so that's the shed picture at the far end of the garden. I tried to kind of make installations and like assemblages or whatever. And it was kind of fun. I enjoyed the like physicality of installing stuff, but it was kind of pointless. I don't know. We had a weekly like shed interim show and some of them were excellent. This one was, you know, the basis for one of them. I guess it was just trying to supplant like what, you know, what you had in the studios, these events, which then with a lack of resources, I was like, oh, still want to do it. And I was quite frustrated with how it went, but what's the word? Not retorted. I drew back into my drawing books, withdrew back into my drawing books, whatever. Retreated, that's it, thank you. That's me, joking. I think that's Gillian wearing postcard. Yeah, so I haven't included all of them because it's just so much. I just kept drawing. This diagram on the right is diagram for the screenplay. So the X's are the characters. There's Chris on the stairs. There's Adam and Harry on the chaise lounge. And Ibby and Jeff in the garden. And these are more sketches from the screenplay, stage play. I switched it to a stage play midway through. Yeah, so I don't know if that was elucidating. I don't know if that's
it was
in any way.
But I think it was, Mariam. I think you've done a good job of suggesting the process, which I'm going to call folding back in. That you're constantly sort of folding stuff over itself to turn process into content and let content become process in some way, and you haven't overdone it, but you've conjured up quite vividly a sense of how much you've been drawing on the school for the energy in all this. And I'm just wondering whether you feel you were kind of saying that the lockdown activity was pointless at one point there, but is it possible that it's a bit of a sort of transitional phase for you, that it's focused you on energizing your practice without the art school?
Well, yes and no. I think I very much like riff off of energy and like spontaneity of like chance encounters of, you know, workshops and I don't know, whatever's going on. There was a hot day, so we opened up the big shutter in sculpture and then started spilling my studio outside. Next thing we know, Andy Brooks there with Larry, head of school, who I didn't realize was Larry, head of school. We were making not so polite conversation. I mean, it was polite, don't worry. But for example, the next plans we had until obviously lockdown was implemented, whatever. It was to put on a Daddy and the Boy exhibition. So I think a lot of the work in the last like 2 weeks leading up to lockdown was in preparation for that. And I keep forgetting what I'm going to say.
Well, so the issue for me was to do with the role of the art school in your practice.
Oh yeah.
And the rather poignant awareness that's in some sense being withdrawn at this point. I mean, I know we're all busily networking like crazy at the moment, but nonetheless, yours is a very material practice. It's very hands-on, and you know, the picture that we're looking at now is not so different from what one would have seen in the studio space not so long ago, save for the fact there are no people involved.
Yeah. I think that's the thing. I started reading a lot on participatory art and looking at the concept of like audience or participation. The art school, like you said, itself as medium, like it became obviously when that medium's gone, you're like, okay, this is just what I was like trying to dive into. The reason I brought up the Daddy and the Boy exhibition again was because one of the plans for that was essentially those two walls, which, you know, had the paintings across. We're going to plaster a giant sign saying "Welcome, Larry," to kind of, you know, repair the damage done by the first interaction, and then also produce like some postcards being like "Welcome, Katie," because it was at the time that both Larry and Katie like had started at WSA. So like, it doesn't work if you're not in the context. I thought there's absolutely no point me putting together a project proposal where I like demonstrate that, because I felt like it didn't have the same point. Like, I don't know, other than to convey, you know, what would have been. But rather than looking at what would have been, I started reading a lot about like site specificity and dematerialized installation and stuff. And then my efforts turned towards screenplay writing, because I thought that was a nice way to like orchestrate a setting, you know. Obviously without the means of production being the computer or the notepad and pen, a completely dematerialized like concept of an installation, because you can't walk through it, but obviously it's textual. I always had like, as you can see in the image on the left, I always had like text a bit in my work. This is a provocation, by the way. I don't actually necessarily think that paint is better than print, just saying.
Is it the case that making something a screenplay as opposed to writing a story makes it feel more dematerialized because it's unrealized? When you apprehend it as a text, at least, then it's a thing that's yet to become another thing.
Absolutely, that's a really good point. It is kind of an interim thing. It is a thing that is not realized. It still like has that kind of potential energy within it, you know. It still has that ability to then be interpreted or applied, or, you know, and then also collaboration comes into that again, right? In the production.
Yes. So we can quite confidently state that it was a deliberate strategy to postpone the materialization of your most recent text to have the video still rendering when this meeting began.
Okay, John. Yeah, let's go with that. Sorry.
No, you, Mariam.
I was just going to say, Imogen, I don't know if this is a bit weird, but do you want to read one of my poems? Because I know you're like into like the written word and that. If not, that's cool, but you know.
I would love to.
So I can screen share, I can like, is my screen still visible?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Oh gosh.
I was
sorry,
ask...
that was a lot. Sorry, I kind of, you know, not the best at speaking succinctly. I don't know what I'm doing. So this was my FMP document. Where's the poetry? Oh, here we go. I just want to find a good one. 1 second. This is poem 43, Bodily Qualms. Oh gosh.
You wanted me to read it out loud, is that what you said, or did you want to read it out loud?
Either or, Imogen. Whatever takes your fancy, whatever tickles your pickle.
I think you should read it out loud. I'd love to hear it in your voice.
Are you sure? Okay. Qualms in my belly, qualms in my head, qualms in my toes, qualms in my arms, qualms in my gullet, qualms in my teeth, qualms in my tongue, qualms in my palms, qualms in my nose, qualms in my ears, qualms around my fingers, qualms shooting through my legs.
That's really good. What are these, all your own poems, or are these?
Yeah, so essentially for FMP, around the kind of concept of the screenplay, I wanted to give the characters very like rich backstories and like personalities and everything. So these are actually selected poems by Chris. So a lot of the poems are about his name being Chris. So this is Chris, poem 44. Criss, cross, crass, I'm a stone cold fox. There is one that I quite like. Where is it? That's not like bad on purpose, hopefully. I don't know where it is, but essentially I wrote like a whole kind of book of poems as Chris. So this is all Chris's poetry. So it informs the reading of the screenplay. Like you're like, who is Chris? And yeah. So for example, 2 of the members of the group, Jeff and Ibrahim, are bandmates for a band called Synthetic Russians. And I have some designs for their band t-shirts, and I worked on like using Audacity, is it Audacity, to like start getting into like sound art so I could make music as, you know, Jeff and Ibrahim.
So you are all of these people yourself. You are the creator of these people.
Yeah.
You're writing in the 3rd person, but as 1st person as Christopher.
Yeah, so technically the whole document for FMP was authored by Ibrahim Taki, aka The Boy. That was his pseudonym. And what was I going to say? Oh yeah, and so at the end of the document, I put like an appendix in, which was authored by me, Mariam Kazemi, which then had like self-evaluation form, project proposal, like just like a little kind of footnote being like, but yeah, the document wasn't really everything I wanted it to be, but I think it was really fun.
If I was to, let's say I was to invite you to a poetry evening, and I said, I want you to read poems 11 through 15 or something, who would I introduce you as? Because this is really interesting.
I think it depends on my mood. I'd probably read it as myself on behalf of Christopher, or maybe find someone who I think has a good Chris energy. Might be like, hey, do you want to read some poems for me? So it was actually really, really fun getting, like I said, Andy, Ian, James, Alex, like all the boys in sculpture, which obviously there's very few of them, to read like the parts for the first scene of the screenplay. I thought it was just brilliant because obviously these characters are inspired by people I know. So the kind of people who they're inspired by were like, haha. So Beth was like, Ian's playing me. Hence the jokes in the like car video about like Jeff being the best character. Because at one point Beth, I don't know if basically Beth like hacked into my computer and changed like she changed the character list, so where it has like character descriptions of like who each character is, she changed Jeff to just the best character. But here it says he's an RCA student of printmaking, both offset and stone lithography, etching and silkscreen. So you can see there's a little bit of dialogue with the original.
I was going to suggest, do you know the play Waiting for, I can't remember how you pronounce it. Waiting for Godot, that's it, by Samuel Beckett.
I do not, but I will check it out. Samuel Beckett.
Yeah. So it's a play of two men waiting for Godot and talking about Godot. Godot never comes. Sorry to spoil. He never comes in the end. And it's the reason I think about it is because they're having a discussion with each other. But the main point of it is there's no description of the characters apart from the fact they have to be wearing bowler hats.
That's weird because Just Three Boys in Kimonos, like the three main boys, just wear kimonos.
Exactly, that's why I was thinking about it.
That's really weird.
And then I was talking to my mum about it because she was an English teacher, and he's also written a play, I don't know about this one, called Endgame, where there's two bins and a mother and a father live in them, and two mysterious characters roam around them, and that's called Endgame. So yeah, and then it's kind of characters talking in just a normal environment, but about things that are happening.
That's really cool.
I really enjoy it. I really wish we could have seen. It's probably very long, but so probably not appropriate for a Zoom call. But I would really like to have seen the performance of you all speaking it. It would have been really kind of informative to the way the people portray the characters.
And obviously it is like a relinquishing of control, like you asked would I like to read it or would you like to read it? Those would have been two very different readings presumably.
Yeah, exactly.
My reading perhaps is, you know, the concept of how I forgot the words again. My speech, I'm so sorry. I have self-diagnosed ADHD. Sorry, anyway, go on, Imogen.
Don't worry, Mariam. I think we're there. I'm just wondering if George is still with us. Are you there, George? Oh, it was just your account of some of the sort of spontaneous events that happened in the studio and the way that one thing morphed into another reminded me of some of the things that I mean, it was sort of focused, as it happens, in new media when George was with us, but it seems as if it's a kind of, there's a bit of a sort of tidal impulse that, there he is.
Oh, hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Could you hear what I was just saying about I was just saying that some of the things that Mariam's described this morning are reminiscent of some of the ways that you used to start performances in new media.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's why I'm so excited about this practice. It's just, yeah, like I love the sort of I don't know, like it's sort of this raw, like natural, kind of intelligent. I don't know. It's like in the moment sort of thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which I really like. Which is quite like a sort of. I mean, that came out of like looking into sort of Buddhism and like Zen, sort of like being in the present moment kind of thing. Yeah, I really enjoy it. I don't know what else to say about it.
No, that's all right. I just no, it's nice to hear. It's nice to hear you kind of being warm about it, actually, because well, it feels I'm sort of reaching for a sense of sort of continuity here, I think, because I like it too, you know, and there've been those moments which have been very exciting to witness in the sort of history of those studios, really.
It's interesting that it's a continued thing as well. That's kind of interesting. Like I wonder who was before and after, and I don't know if it's like it has a connection somehow. I don't know, like some sort of weird studio magic.
yeah, but it's kind of it's obviously weird to be discussing it when we have no access whatsoever to the space. But I think that some of what has gone on here today suggests that we're beginning to kind of reinvent the whole thing as something that can be conducted on a slightly more sort of dispersed kind of basis.
I think, Mariam, speaking of George, you should probably go and check out the homemade mango chutney on A-Space website, because the first by Aisling, and it's full of drawings and full of things that probably it has a very similar vibe to what you showed at the beginning with your What's That Smell exhibition.
Okay, we're bang on the 2 hour mark. I'm just wondering if anybody has anything to add now.
Sorry, I just opened the chat. So just saw spoiler.
Yeah. Yes.
Jess got a statement.
Uh-oh. Hi, Jess.
Statement, make it so official. Just to continue on about Mariam's work, to be honest, like it's so interesting, and you speak so intellectually about what you're talking about. Like wonderful to hear, really. That's just my 2 pence.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's like the kind of nostalgia of talking about like the art school and the idea of the art school. I think that's where it's continuing on, like this really magic space where conversations can happen. It's something that like post art school can be quite hard.
We've missed the most.
Yeah, that disappears, but that's why it's been so. It's keeping up those conversations, and what you're talking about, dispersing that and kind of.
It needs to be brought out of art school into like public space. Like it needs to be brought into the world. That kind of.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Well, that is the. I mean, that is the kind of the positive side of the lockdown situation. That is what people keep coming back to, is the fact that, you know, even as they're separated from one another, they're enjoying this kind of connectivity that's going on.
Mm. Hello, John. Can you hear
Ian?
me?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, carrying on from what Jess was saying there with George, it kind of feels like there's a kind of interesting thing. Sorry, I've got an awful echo. Feels like there's an interesting thing between the kind of all of the presenters, which kind of to roll through them and fold back in, to take your words there. From Marianne's through to Beth's and Harry's, which I was kind of interested in. It's sort of difficult to say, but I kind of was curious about the sort of notion of the souvenir, and whether kind of all of the things we're kind of looking at today could act as forms of souvenir, you know, postcards. And then I was kind of thinking, what does a souvenir mean? Because, well, certainly kind of all of Marianne's things feel like they're postcards being sent kind of through to kind of remind us of places. So the souvenir acts in a kind of restorative role. So kind of there's a kind of a sense that these are restorations in this sense. But it kind of first, the idea of the souvenir first started to kind of bury itself in my head from Beth's pieces. Because, and it was kind of when they were being talked about as her recording these kind of things that she's recording these moments that are being pushed out onto Instagram. So then she's recording these things that are the things she's recording. Then are they souvenirs of these moments? So you've got this kind of souvenir, and then they're kind of forming into collections. And so kind of and so there's a discernment that's happening through these kind of collections of souvenirs, through all of them. So kind of with Harry as well, in terms of the way that kind of he's kind of making these kind of miniature sheds to act as souvenirs to the shed itself. You got a kind of thing of kind of restorative actions happening throughout all of them. So it's just kind of my notions about this. So is Marianne's things, are they kind of the souvenir of the art school experience? You know, kind of where, and kind of like, so kind of all the time, like this happening through the medium itself. So in terms of kind of Beth's thing, like I kind of think the print is really beautiful, because in a way, a souvenir acts as in a way to make nature idealized. So it idealizes the moment. And so kind of the way then that you're kind of talking, even when it comes to that typewriter that she'd idealized through making a print of it, kind of find that then what's happening with an idealized version of itself is that, you know, you're making an object that survives the present. You know, kind of it through doing it, you're trying to sort of say you can survive the present through making an idealized version of it. So kind of I find that all really interesting, especially when you put it through the lens of the COVID crisis. So that's kind of my kind of summation of these really remarkable kind of presentations that have been made within this. And just to hark back to one of the comments that was being made, I think by who was making it, by Katie, about the whole questioning of the symposium through the symposium itself. So I kind of love it. So thank you very much. What a brilliant session.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you. I was waiting to hear what you had to say about it before I committed myself, apparently. So look, I think that's a good place to stop. We're just going to have a break for lunch. I don't know whether Lucy's still with us at this moment, but she will be starting up again at 2 o'clock. Hi, Lucy, you okay for 2 o'clock?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm having slight issues with my internet, but I've moved rooms and hope that it's going to help.
Okay. And the plain background.
Yes, I know. I was thinking that I had the standard bookcase and I needed to eliminate that.
Excellent.
So as not to be a cliche.
Okay, so we'll join you then, and you're going to go do a quick run through of all the people that haven't been able to be part of this week's event.
Yeah.
And we're going to hear from people from the regional arts organisations about the kind of opportunities that are out there.
Yeah.
So thank you everybody for now. This meeting will resume at 2 o'clock. It's the same link, the same address, and so on. Lucy, I will pass the control when I leave the meeting, just in case. I'll pass control of it over to you. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, that's great.
Thanks a lot, everybody. See you later.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Mariam, if you ever want to, if you ever want any, I've got a couple of other references. I can message them over to you on a separate thing if you'd like.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Imogen. Thank
do the
you.
same for. I'll do
sorry,
the same.
Sorry,
for
I was a bit of a bumbling mess.
No, don't worry, and I'll do the same for Beth as well.
Cool. Thank you, Imogen. I'll let her know.
That's all right. Bye.
Take care. Bye. Bye. Bye.